Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Claude Maddox. I'll give you a little more detail on that in a minute. But to get started, I'd like to ask Dr. Miguel Lucas to come up and say a few words, and then we'll have Ashley come up and say a few words, and then we'll get going. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. My name is Miguel Lucas. I'm the Interim Dean of Student Life here at GCC. On behalf of the Glendale Community College President, Dr. Labor Reese, and all the administrators, faculty, and staff, we want to welcome you here to Glendale Community College, welcome you here to this forum. I especially want to thank the GCC student government and the Office of Student Leadership for their commitment to leadership in organizing and facilitating this event. And also I want to thank all of you for being here, for showing your commitment to civic engagement and your support, or showing your support of being informed voters. Lastly, I really want to thank all the Maricopa Community College Governing Board candidates for being here today, for being willing to participate in this very important forum. I'd like at this time to introduce you to Ashley Mazariega, and she is the GCC Student Government President. Let's give her a round of applause for her service and leadership.
Down. Thank you, Dr. Lucas. On behalf of student government, I just wanted to say how truly excited we are to have had the opportunity to put together an event like this. And of course, I'd like to thank all of the panelists that are here today, all of the candidates that took time out of their busy schedules to attend our event. And of course, I'd also like to thank our advisor, Connie Greenwell, as well as her amazing staff for all the support and assistance in putting together this event, so thank you. But it is our hope that through this event, teachers, faculty, students, members of the community are able to make a more informed decision while voting in this midterm election. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome back Claude Maddox to the stage to get this event going. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Dr. Lucas. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Claude Maddox. I've served on the Phoenix City Council for 12 years. I currently work as Vice President of Government and Community Relations with the firm Malera Alvarez. I am here today as a board member of Arizona Town Hall. They asked me to do the facilitation. I'm going to do a very brief introduction of the candidates. And if you have, or you should have, a copy of the agenda, it has their more specific biographies on them. You can refer to that, and they can speak to that themselves. In no particular order, we have at-large candidates, which basically represent all 10 colleges and 2 skill centers, Mr. Rock Arnett and Kathleen Ann Wing. District 3 candidates represent Phoenix College and Paradise Valley Community College, Sherman Elliott, and Marie Sullivan. District 4 candidate representing Glendale and Estrella Community Colleges, Stan Atterbury, and District 5 candidate representing Gateway and South Mountain Community Colleges, Tom Noreen. So the rules of the forum. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to do an opening statement. As we have 6 candidates, stick to your 2 minutes or I will shut you down. Our timer is Ashley and Betsy. Thank you very much for doing that. When I see that red flag go, I'm going to start jumping on people. So she's going to give you a 1 minute, a 30-second notice, and then you will see the stop red flag. I've been given 4 pre-decided questions. I understand all of you have had these questions, so you should be having your answers down. You should be able to get it done in a minute and a half, I'm saying. So as I said, you'll have 2 minutes to respond. Time permitting, we will have grab bag questions, which I understand the students have submitted. You will have 1 minute to respond to those. Finally, we'll have a final closing question, and you'll have 2 minutes to respond and close. Questions will be asked to random candidates to respond first, and then we will work our way to the left and Since Rock, you're the last person on the left, when Rock answers the question, it'll come back to you, Kathleen. All right, so let's get going. And ironically, I didn't write down who's going to start the questioning of this, so I'm just going to go on and start with you, Kathleen, for your 2-minute opening.
And that's just who we are in the
Exactly.
So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kathleen Wynn. I'm running for the large position, countywide position for all 10 colleges. I decided to run earlier this year when I saw that education really needs our attention and our time. My husband and I have raised 7 children. All 7 of our kids are college graduates. We had 6 kids in college at the same time. We are consumers of the Maricopa Community College system. And without the Maricopa Community College system, our children couldn't have afforded to go to college. The state colleges made college more expensive this year. They raised tuition. And unfortunately, Maricopa Community College's enrollment is down. So I think we have to approach it as a business problem. I spent 30 years in business. I was a successful lender, real estate broker, spent a lot of time analyzing numbers and making financial decisions. I spent 4 years in the Attorney General's office working with young people, issues that were affecting them, substance abuse, sex trafficking, bullying, suicide. So I think our students right now are facing things that we didn't have to face back when I went to college. I also think it's equally important that we start to be student-focused. Let's look at how our students are learning, and let's match them up to the jobs that are out there. There's over 100,000 jobs in Maricopa County, and we need to do a better job of learning how our students are learning and helping them get to where they need to get to. I think the community college can be that vehicle, and that is why I'm running. I think I can do that job. Thank you.
Mr. Reed.
My name is John Reed. I'm running for the board because I know the power of the community college. I'm a product of the community college. I know what can happen when a community college works well. I know the struggles of the students, both as a student and currently I'm a school counselor, so I send a lot of my students to the community college. I spent 20 years working in higher education, working on outreach and retention programs across the country. I spent time in New York and in Canada and in Washington, reaching out to students and developing retention programs. I know the power of the community colleges. One of the stories I like to tell is when I was back in my old neighborhood canvassing for signatures, I went to one house, and the guy answers the door. I went to introduce myself, and he told me his name. I'm like, didn't we go to grade school together? And he says, yeah, I think we did. What have you been up to? And I said, well, I was living in Washington. I was living in Canada. Spent some time in New York. Blah blah blah. And he said, yeah, I've been doing some traveling too, mostly in state, mostly courtesy of the DOJ. So these are the way we Department of Justice. He had spent most of his time in and out of jail. And we were able to, because I took advantage of the community college, I was able to make the change in my life, in my neighborhood. And I'm running for the community college board because I want it to be strong for the students. The students need to come first, and we can make a change in the community as well.
Thank you. Mr. Adler.
I have a very similar story to Tom. I'm a product of a community college. Matter of fact, I'm a high school dropout who went to 3 years of high school after my junior year and then attended a community college. I always like to say that the community college was my vehicle to a successful career. After leaving community college, I graduated from Whittier, graduated from Atlanta University, started teaching at a historically black college, came back to California, started teaching at Riverside Community College. And community colleges is the vehicle for all kinds of learners. People like myself, high school graduate, dropout, high school graduates who are not prepared to go to a four-year school, students who cannot afford the tuition at a four-year school. Community colleges are the vehicle for success. Why am I running? I'm running because I became very concerned about what I was reading about in the newspaper about what was happening in the Maricopa community colleges. I felt that this board, the current board, was playing politics over the education of the students. I firmly believe that student success should be the primary motivating factor for any trustee who runs for any individual who runs for the board. I want to be part of this new team that re-energizes this district to focus on student success, focus on employee morale, and improve the climate that exists within this organization. Maricopa had a phenomenal reputation in the nation, and I want to be part of that board that brings back that renowned reputation that belongs to the Maricopa Community College District.
Ms. Sullivan.
Putting this together. We all have a story. Mine is when I was 19, I had to leave a university education because of family conditions, and I went to work full time. And I've never looked back. It's been where I personally have an experience of hard work and good work, and I know that it can offer many opportunities to success. We know there's no one pathway to get there. But I also know that it's important to be a lifelong learner, to gather knowledge and experiences that will assist us in our worlds of life and work. So because of my values and my own experiences, I've had a passion for and have dedicated my professional and personal life and commitments to the world of education and blending education and linking education and employment. I've been part of this arena for a long time, over 40 years, and I've seen through work in public policy, direct service, and through my own leadership, the opportunities and the role that community colleges plays in guiding success. So what do I know? I know that the current community college system is a good one, otherwise you wouldn't be participating in it. But I know that it can also be a better one. This is a system that belongs to you, the students. We want to make sure that you have the opportunity to be a success. We want to put you first. We know that the faculty and the staff are incredible assets to this community college system, and we want to see a greater investment in them and give them a voice. I want us, the taxpayers, to see that our money is being used wisely. I'm running because I believe that we have a good system that can be made better, and I have the heart, the skills, and the interest to do just that. Thank you.
Mr. Elliott.
Thank you. Son?
You're on.
I was the first one in my college to go to a 4-year university. So you gotta go back for a minute and look at my life. My father died when I was 6 months old. My mother had 6 kids, ranging in age from 16 to 6 months. She had never worked a day in her life and didn't have a driver's license. So we pack up, we moved back home to California, and there was no money to go to college. For my older siblings, that was not even an option. Except down the road, when they began to realize that there are no barriers to entry at the local community college. We are the only nation in the world that has this. I've been blessed to have been in many opportunities internationally. I'm a commissioner for Phoenix Sister Cities. When I talk to every other country about their college system, they always are fascinated by the community college. That's what I talked about first. No matter your age, your economic background, your race, your gender, you always can find a way to make a difference, a change in your life. I've been a faculty member at the community college nonstop every semester, addicted to it, for 22 years. Phoenix College and Rio Salado College, also a stint at the Guadalupe Center of South Mountain Community College. I'm in love with teaching, so I get to change people's lives. So I got to go to a 4-year university, pick up a few master's degrees and a doctorate, and become a dean at a major university. And that gift only happened because of what the community college did for my entire family. I want to give back. My friends who are in the faculty at Phoenix College, PVCC, and Rio have been whispering to me for over 2 years about major problems with the board. Staff members, a friend who's a librarian, a registrar, an enrollment counselor, the same thing. There's no reason for me not to offer my passion for teaching, my passion for university services, my passion for changing people's lives to the community college system. That's why I decided to run, to be a calm, rational voice, and to work with the board members to respect faculty and staff to change everybody's direction.
Mr. Arnett.
Good afternoon. How delightful to be with you, and I congratulate you for your interest in the election process, and I do hope you all vote. I hope you all vote for me. And I congratulate Ashley. My resume didn't show, but I happen to have been the first student body president at Mesa Community College back in 1963. Ever since, I've had a passion for education. I sold insurance for 38 years, you'll see on my resume, and then I ran the East Valley Partnership for almost 14 years, and one of our key issues was education. I happen to believe that education is the strongest economic driver in the economy. It is that thing that makes our economy move forward. And in a like manner, it helps, it is a driver of success of an individual and a family. The job and the responsibility of the community college is to prepare students of all ages, whether you're a new young student preparing to go to the university or whether you're a career person that has been out of the workforce for a while or in some industry that you'd like to change, to re-career. This is our job, and to make sure that it is accessible and affordable. As has been said before, this is a wonderful place to start. It is a wonderful place to move forward, and I look forward to participating. And let me congratulate the other members of the candidates to the table here. These are good people, and I wish them all well, but I hope that I have more well than... Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arnett. Thank you all very much. That was very good. All right, we're going to get into the questions. Questions number one, and this is going to start with Mr. Atterbury. How would you perceive your role of a governing board member for the community colleges? In other words, what do you see as the roles and responsibilities of a governing board member? Mr. Atterbury.
Community college governing boards are responsible for ensuring that their colleges are integral parts of their communities and serve the ever-changing needs of that population. They are accountable to the community for the performance and welfare of the institution they govern. Effective board consists of people who come together to form a cohesive group to articulate and represent the public interest and establish a climate of learning and monitoring the effectiveness of the institution. Governing boards do not do the work of the institution. They ensure that the colleges have that the district has an outstanding chancellor, the colleges have outstanding presidents, outstanding administrators, outstanding faculty, and staff. They establish standards for the work through the policies they set. This is what boards should do. They act as a unit. Individual board members do not have any power. They only have power as a board. They represent the common good of the institution. They set policy direction. They define policy standards for the district and college operations. They monitor the performance of the colleges and of the chancellor. They support and be an advocate for the colleges. They lead as a thoughtful and educated team. And I think one of the most crucial roles of the Board of Trustees, of the governing board, is to create a positive climate within the organization. That is the responsibility of the governing board.
Thank you. Ms. Sutherland.
I've had experience serving on a governing board of a school district for 8 years. And in that role, I learned a tremendous amount of how to conduct myself as a board member in concert with a team of other leaders to forward a vision and articulate good policies that would represent the values and experience of the school district. I've also served on boards with the city, the county, and have been the recipient of board leadership myself as the CEO of a nonprofit. With that, there is a distinction between how boards work, between management and governance. So my understanding of the role and responsibility is that this board would concentrate on governance, oversight, particularly of fiscal and performance conditions, and be responsible for the hiring of the chancellor and ensuring that we were moving forward in that regard. With that, though, there's an indirect role and responsibility, and that is the code of conduct for boards. I would imagine that we would have to have a good code of conduct that would represent not just our common good and our shared values and vision, but also one of transparency and respect. And that is our job as board members to ensure that culture of goodwill, common good, to pursue and promote the district. Advocacy is also another key element. All of those come together on a board of governors or board of directors, as this is, and it is our responsibility to work in consensus to see that we can achieve that goodwill and that good work.
Thank you. Mr. Elliott.
Thank you.
Still not.
No one working?
Here you go.
Is that better?
Yes.
Oh, there I am. Sorry about that. High quality, affordable education. That's what all of us want. Is there anybody in this room that does not want high quality, affordable education? Yeah. That's the reality. That's what we have to do. And as a board, we have to support those who are the professionals who are making those decisions on a daily basis, implementing policy. We set goals, we help to approve policies, but I really hope that those votes on the board are 7-0, or 6-1, worst case scenario. The board is too divisive right now. And the reality is we have to meet, we have to listen to all the staff members, all the faculty at all the community colleges and skills centers, as well as other stakeholders, including property tax holders, right? All of this wonderful room and everything we've done, to a certain degree, is paid for by a lot of local property taxes. So it's our job to make sure that we listen to all stakeholders and represent the best possible ways to get high quality, affordable education. It's also crucial that we be cheerleaders. And I think this team right here would be pretty good, to be honest. Our job is to go out there and to continue to brag about Maricopa County Community Colleges, what it has been doing for at least 60 years, and what it continues to do. It has a phenomenal reputation, or I wouldn't teach for it. 22 years of my life teaching it, teaching for the community colleges. Right now, I've been teaching for about 19 years, being incarcerated. And every day I get to see a difference that Maricopa makes through me in teaching the incarcerated. Board members need to be mindful of all those programs, be cheerleaders for all of them, make sure they get funded. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnett.
The question is, what is the responsibility of the governing board member? And we as governing board members are accountable to the taxpayers and citizens of Maricopa County. We're also accountable to the students and to the faculty and the staff and anyone associated with the institution. We're also responsible to the business community. That's a big and wide range of people for whom we are to answer. We are engaged in academic and student affairs, finance, budget, facilities, shared governance, personnel, and ethic matters. That is a big job for this board, and I think that I'm up to the task with my background. One of the things that I think we need to talk about is avoiding competition on the board, meaning let's work together. And we also need to meet and comply with the open meeting laws that are our responsibility. I happen to think that Maricopa's best days are ahead, including this institution here at Glendale and all 10 across the district. We have got a lot of good things going, and I want to help move those forward even better. Thank you.
Thank you.
The board has been too political. Education shouldn't be political. You shouldn't have to be in the middle of whose side someone is on. The board should almost be invisible. If they're doing their job, you shouldn't hear about the board. I want to reduce conflict. That's what I do. You have 7 kids, you have to reduce conflict. So one of the things that's the most important is the relationship the board has with the chancellor. That's really their job. The chancellor is that person who works with the college presidents, who works with the day-to-day operations. The board should not be involved in the day-to-day operations. If the school is running as it should, the board should be there to advise, help if the chancellor has questions about policy, but we really are in an advisory role. There has to be a culture of respect. There's been a lack of respect. There's been divisiveness. and that has to end. There's so much at stake right now as we move forward. We have 1 million people moving here in the next 5 years. This school system could be the platinum standard in the country, and it's time that we turn a corner. I'm hoping with this election that we come together, and I agree with Sherman that the vote should be 7-0 or 6-1. There needs to be honest and candid discussion, but then we've got to make decisions that are in the best interest of the school, of the students, and that should not have a political face. Education needs to stop to be politicized. I also think that the respect that the board members show each other is also critical. We have to start to demonstrate what it is that we want our students and our faculty to deliver. So that would be my input on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marie.
When I was living in Washington, I lived up on the Puget Sound. I was up in Bellingham, Washington. And they had something there that I never knew about when I was growing up here. It's called water. All this water. And in the mornings I'd get up and I would see these nice long skinny boats with like 6 or 8 people in it just kind of rowing away. And there was one person who wasn't rowing. He was up there, or she was up there calling out the row, the cadence, the coxswain. And that's what I see the board as being. It's being the coxswain. The faculty, the staff, the students, they're doing the heavy rowing. We're just trying to help keep that in cadence. And that's what I see our role is. We need to follow the mission. And the mission is to provide access to higher education to all students. Right? And so that access is more than just academic access to education. That's teaching you life skills, teaching you personal skills, teaching you leadership, and that sort of thing. That's why I think it's so important that we have student government, we have athletics, we have football, we have these opportunities for students to learn these soft skills that aren't taught in class. I worked at very highly selective colleges around the country. Colleges that are up $70,000, $80,000 a year. And what I found as a student, working with my students here, working with, at the community colleges here, is that our students are just as capable, if not more capable, than those students going to those highly selective colleges. Our faculty are as capable, if not more capable, than the faculty that are teaching at those highly selective colleges, getting paid a whole lot more. And so what I want to do is make sure that we have the faculty have the resources, the staff have the resources to make sure that the students can benefit from that quality that we have at the college. So make sure that they have that quality so that they can move on to the work world and benefit the whole state, not the nation.
Great. Thank you very much. Good job. Question number 2. And by the way, you guys are killing it on time, so we're going to have be able to ask a lot of grab bag questions. Item number 2 will start with Ms. Sullivan. Would you support in-state tuition for undocumented students? Why or why not? And the second part of the question is, what other ways can you see to support DACA students?
Yes. And but it's more complicated than my yes. The Arizona State Supreme Court made a decision that denies DACA students in-state tuition. And it is not at the purview of the governing board of the community college district to go against that ruling. With that, anyone who has lived in the state for over a year, who wants and desires access to an affordable education, should be given that opportunity. And particularly in education that is going to, I guess I'm off.
Yeah, we're on. Just pass the whole thing over.
Okay, this one's on. Do I get you know, I think there's another value to education besides the fact that it's going to give you a career, it's going to enhance your life. And that is because it enhances the dignity of you as a person. Both work and education do that. And if we begin to section off portions of our population and deny them their opportunity to see that they have their dignity is questioned or challenged, then we're not doing our job as good leaders. So what do I think we can do about it? Certainly, what is within our purview is to work harder to develop relationships and opportunities with other educational institutions, with business partnerships, to devise with our foundation scholarship access so that we could begin to underwrite and subsidize that difference in tuition that someone who has lived in the state for over a year could deserve through and into our community college system. I think it's the right thing to do at this time. There are other practices that we can adopt. Dr. Narini is fully informed on those, and so having listened to him many times, I hope you give him the respect to hear his ideas. But those are certainly within the purview of what we can do and what I think we should do.
Thank you. Mr. Elliott.
I vote to fund audiovisual
Yes.
for Glendale Community College. This is low-hanging fruit. I don't know how I can differ from my colleagues. Absolutely, they should be paying in-state tuition. When I think of folks that, by no fault of their own, are here in Arizona, working hard, learning well, they are survivors. For the love of God, they're survivors. They have to be funded. So if the state Supreme Court is unable to do that through the legislature, we absolutely have to have a foundation. We can get a lot of good people on board. We can get people on board who can fund scholarships and aid. And that's not just the only cost of education, right? We have a lot of other factors: transportation, food, textbooks, third-party adaptive platform fees, childcare. All of that should go into a large fund that would help subsidize so they are paying the same as everybody else.
Thank you. Mr. Arnett.
I'll make a bold statement that the immigration system in the United States needs to be fixed. It needs to be corrected, it needs to be adjusted. It needs to be so that there is balance in the immigration system. Driving over here, I had about an hour to make it from Mesa, and that's about all that was talked about is immigration and what's going on. So that needs to be fixed, and it was mentioned that the Arizona Supreme Court has unanimously ruled against DACA students receiving in-state tuition, so therefore it's the law. Well, there are those things, and I would, if the law were to be changed, I would absolutely support it. There are those things that Mr. Elliott just mentioned, that the cost of life, the cost of living, the cost of getting up in the morning and taking a shower and having breakfast and then studying, all of those things are expensive and takes time and need to be thought about for a student moving forward. I would be in favor of scholarships being developed for these DACA students. Now I realize that there may be some need for the change in the law, but if there needs to be a change, then let's change the law. Let's go to the legislature and make it possible. I believe we have some funds in the Maricopa Foundation that could help DACA students. The foundation, that's a whole different subject in my mind, needs to be a broader and more effective way of helping pay for education, to drive down the cost of education to individuals. I just came from an event this morning out in Maryvale where the Chicanos por la Casa is putting together a workforce program, and they mentioned that they are talking about dreamers and helping move dreamers forward, and I was very happy to see that happen. I think that there's enough togetherness in this community. We can bring funds together to make DACA students go to school at the same price as others.
Thank you, Mr. Arnett. Ms. Wynn.
Currently, the tuition is affordable for those that, this is not working now? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I met with the DACA students after a meeting in Mesa. I have to tell you, they were impressive, they were articulate, they knew what they wanted, and they had a lot of direction. To not encourage that type of student who's already successful, because I agree with whoever said that they are survivors, we have to encourage that. Our state right now, unfortunately, it takes a constitutional amendment. So how you change that is you go to the legislature and you change that. The other way to help students who are, there's a delta there. So whatever they're paying and whatever the state tuition is, find sponsorships or find businesses or find people who want to hire these students to make up that difference. Employers need job-ready people right now and are willing to do that. And that's one solution that we've looked at. The other thing is that we have to work with students that are DACA students and identify them prior to them getting to the college system, so that we know that we have these students that are in our system, and work with them up front for any other additional needs or any other things that they're lacking that will have them be successful. My own daughter-in-law moved here from Mexico when she was 3. She was born here when she was 3. She went through the process. It took her 5 years to become a citizen. She became a citizen 2 years ago. It makes life easier, so maybe working with the students if they choose to become citizens during this time. I think there's other solutions that we haven't looked at, and we need to just be focused on our students' success. But more importantly, we need to talk to our legislators, and I think the culture and the climate is changing, that we want to support these students, and I hope that we can make a constitutional amendment so Arizona can be a leader in this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nuri.
Okay, forgive me if I speak fast because I have a lot to say about this. First of all, we talked earlier about the obligation, the responsibility we have to taxpayers, because taxpayers are paying for the facility. All DACA students are paying taxes. Whether they're renting or owning or they're buying something at the store, they're paying taxes. So they are contributing to the economy and to the sustenance of community college. And please make a distinction between DACA and undocumented students. There's a group of students out there, they're afraid to even apply for DACA because they're afraid to get their name out there to the government. So there's still a distinction. Even when we had the in-state tuition for the DACA students, there was still a population who couldn't afford to go to college because they were having to pay out-of-state tuition. To get to a prep, well, and you look at the enrollment of the community colleges. Once the Supreme Court made their decision, you see what happened to the enrollment of the community college. It dropped. So, yes, we need vote. That's the only way we're going to get this thing changed. There are some practical solutions that we can adopt right now as a board. Because this is based on a federal law that says we cannot give a resource to any non-resident that we do not give to a U.S. citizen, another U.S. citizen. So out-of-state tuition. We're not giving in-state tuition to somebody from North Dakota because they're not from here. Well, we do WUI. WUI is Western Undergraduate Exchange. We allow those students to come from in-state plus half. We can do that for DACA students. ASU is doing that for DACA students. Tribal colleges. The tribal college, we have 2 of the 36 tribal colleges in the country here in Arizona. When a few months ago or a few years ago, we worked with them to bring their classes here to Phoenix, so our DACA students and undocumented students could go for the same price as any non-native student could go to their college. So they were paying $80 a credit hour then, and we're still working with them now. And I want to take my hats off to the Faculty Association for all the money that they've raised for students. And
great, thank you. Mr. Harder.
There's very little that I can add to what my distinguished colleagues have said, and especially with Rock in terms of legislation needs to be changed. Yes, I feel that DACA students should be treated equally as in-resident state students and that they should be afforded. Tom mentioned that they're paying taxes. The other thing I like to say, many of our DACA students join our military and serve in the military. And many of them, some of them, have died serving for this country. And I think we owe that to the students. There's been a significant impact to the legislation in the Supreme Court on headcount here in the Maricopa Community College District. For example, the number of students enrolled in the fall of 2017 was 2,078. At the same time, in the fall of 2018, it was down to 1,255. A 40% drop in headcount. That has a significant impact on fiscal. I would like to also say that Maricopa, as a district, is doing a lot to help its DACA students. Tom mentioned the Faculty Association, the scholarships that are being provided. The foundation provided over $126,000 in scholarship, which averaged about $1,800 per student. 112 DACA students were awarded scholarships, 20 students for Mexican Consulate scholarships, 32 students for Hope scholarships, and 28 were selected and matched with the Maricopa Foundation. We're doing something, but more needs to be done. and that more means legislation need to be changed so that these students are treated as residents and pay residential tuition. And that's high too, at $85 a unit compared to what they're paying, $326 a unit. To take a 3-unit course would cost an individual $978. That's a lot. That's only for tuition.
Thank you. Question number 3, and we'll start with Mr. Narini. If you are elected, what do you see as the 3 biggest challenges facing the district, and what would be your 3 biggest priorities?
I like this question because I'm already elected.
All right, let me move on.
Yeah, because there's no opponent, they canceled the election, and I will be appointed to the board. Congratulations. Thank you. But the three issues I see is transparency, the lack of transparency, the lack of shared governance, and the lack of data-driven decisions. So what do we need to work on? We need to work on transparency, more shared governance, and more data-driven decisions. I think too many decisions have been made by the board without all the facts available. Too many decisions have been made by the administration without all the facts available. And I think a lot of decisions have been made without the student's best interest in mind. So if we have transparency, we can, you as students, you as the public, you as the community, can see what those decisions are and where they're coming from, and the data or the responsibilities that they're using to make those decisions. So I'll pass it on from there.
Thank you, Mr. Arterberry.
You know, I mentioned to you earlier in terms of the role of a board member. We're not there to do. When we look at the challenges, and there are many challenges facing this district, if I was to identify 3 primary challenges that I feel that the board could have some significant impact on would be 1, lack of state funding. The board need to actively pursue, through its regular processes, of hopefully encouraging the legislature by working with the state government, working with local elected officials, and then hopefully the state can identify resources of reestablishing funding. In Arizona, Maricopa and Pima are the only 2 community colleges that do not receive any federal funding. So that's extremely significant. Mr. Narini mentioned shared governance, transparency, faculty and staff. The morale in this district is probably at its lowest point. The board plays a very significant role in the climate for employees. And that's a role I believe that this board can play. Another one that's significantly important is student enrollment. Stabilizing the district student enrollment. We mentioned the decline in DACA students. The economy goes up, adults go back to work. What are we doing in terms of the business community and researching, and how are we connecting to the business for new emerging careers, new emerging areas that could bring about new student enrollment? So the board plays a significant role in addressing those areas on a policy basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Sullivan.
I'm pretty consistent with my 2 colleagues to my right here on their comments. The first item that I see that is important, and that is the consistency that's necessary around transparency and information. With transparency, you're ensuring that you have the opportunity to look at and review data, and I would lump or put data review and data decision making into that concept of transparency. I think it also is an issue of respect, which goes back to my comment that a board of directors tends to set the tone and the culture of a community. So transparency and respect with relative to data and to good conduct would be certainly something that I would like to see as a primary priority. The other one I would agree with is the state funding renewal to the community college districts. If we look at Texas, for example, they put over $3 billion into their community college system, mostly because they link it to workforce development. We just avoided, we have a 0 next to our line item for $68 million. So I think there's a tremendous amount of work that we could do in that regard. And the third one is maintaining affordability and accessibility while maintaining academic and educational excellence. With that, that means investing our tax dollars wisely, to put students first, to ensure that our staff and our faculty have an opportunity in shared governance, and that we move forward consistently within those three contexts and three priorities to see that we are the best, not just the largest community college district in the nation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elliott.
We are going to fund that.
I don't know if I can differ too much from my colleagues. I think they're dead on. I've been in higher education for 22 years. This is the lowest I have seen with respect for faculty and staff. And I think there's no reason for it. I live for working with faculty. It's what I do for a living. I'm very passionate about it. Faculty have to be at the foundation of all decision making, as well as staff. Whether you're a librarian, you're the registrar's office, you're audiovisual, you are all part of the learning community that affects and changes learners' lives at all ages and all levels of diversity. So board members have to understand they are in the trenches, they are the intellectual capital. That's what I would move on right away. Second is the total cost of education. We talk about tuition and fees, and that's not the bulk of it anymore. The total cost of education includes textbooks that are astronomical. And most community colleges do not use internal subject matter experts to write their own texts, which can reduce the fees for text by up to 85 to 90%. That makes a difference in an individual's life. We also need to look at things such as transportation, childcare. Everything comes to the full table when it comes to what is the total cost for a learner, whether they are coming in to reinvent themselves with a new skill, or they're transferring from high school with their hope of going on to a four-year university. What is the total cost, and what can we do to alleviate that burden? No barriers to entry. That's the majesty and romanticism of the community college system. Finally is retention. Growth is a problem because retention is so bad. That's not the faculty's fault. That's because there are so many issues in a learner's life that are not being addressed. Mental health and wellness is crucial. You all know that. You have friends who struggle from it. Anxiety, depression, substance abuse. When you are suffering from these conditions, you're not getting the care you need, you don't go to class and you drop out. Childcare. You can be a parent of any age, but if you don't have somebody to help with childcare, you're not going to class, whether it's online or on ground. So those are the priorities for me: retention, total cost of education, and changing the conversation with the experts, faculty, and staff.
Thank you, Mr. Arnett.
I agree with those things that have been said, but I'm going to add a few. I happen to think that our faculty and our staff are bright, well-educated, and committed to making this institution move forward on a very positive basis. And with the problems and the challenges that we've got, we can find solutions because we've got the people who can help do that. But what I've listened to as I've gone across the entire county is the need for the completion of the guided pathway transformation that's taking place. Many of the faculty are involved in that, and it needs to be completed, and completed, I would like to see it completed sooner and better than is taking place at the present. Second thing is the workforce development curriculum process needs to be expanded and added upon. Jobs coming out of this institution, qualification for jobs coming out of this institution is absolutely essential. Michael Crow has said, the president of ASU, that at least half the jobs that are here in effect today are going to be gone in 15 years. So therefore, we need to plan for and work with industry for preparing for future jobs. The other is apprenticeships. Included in that job workforce is apprenticeships. There is a wave of apprenticeships being developed across the country, and when you think of apprenticeship, you think generally of the trades. But apprenticeships are now being expanded into all kinds of other trades: insurance, medical, architecture. The list just goes on and on. The third thing I'd talk about that's been mentioned before is the morale. I believe that the morale needs to be improved and should be improved because we need to have teachers and faculty and professors that are excited to be here and are not distracted with payroll issues, distracted from other issues. And I've got many more things to talk about, but my time's up.
Thank you. Ms. Wynn.
My number one priority would be to come up with a growth plan. We currently have the largest population of students 15 to 25 in the country. We also have 75,000 disengaged youth, students that are 16 to 24. There's over 100,000 jobs that need filling. I'd like to see Maricopa Community College be the vehicle to fill those jobs and have students be job ready. I also think we need to start to work with students while they're still in high school to come up with a plan. And like many of my colleagues up here, we have to work with industry to identify those jobs. The jobs are changing. Technology is changing. Plus, everyone doesn't need a four-year degree. We need people to build houses, plumbers, electricians, framers. We need police officers. We need medical people. Every industry right now needs somebody, and we can diversify what this college is doing to help our students meet those needs so that when they get out of college, they have a plan and a future that they're walking into. Discover their passion so we can do the right things by them. Affordability. I think affordability is the common thread I've heard. We have to make education affordable for anybody that's seeking education. We have employers right now who will pay for people to go to college, and after they get done going to school, they'll come work for these employers, or even go to school and then work while they're in school. And the final thing would be graduation rates. I think we need to raise our graduation rates. We need to be more effective. Everyone wants to be part of the success. The last 3 years I worked with the Marine Corps Scholarship, and we provided college scholarships to children of Marines. We have a 92% graduation rate. 50% of our kids are first-time college attendees. If the Marines can do it, we all can do it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Good job. Mr. Arnett, you're going to have question number 4. What role does student athletics have at the community college? For example, what is your view on the elimination of football at Maricopa community colleges?
We need more time than 2 minutes.
That's what you got, sir.
There are 13 women's sports and 14 men's sports in the community college sports plan. Not all the colleges, however, have football. I happen to think that sports in colleges help hone talents and experience for life's lessons of students. I believe that someone can come to the community college and do well enough that they qualify for a scholarship at a 4-year institution. Many of you will know the name Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Fame quarterback, started his quarterback career at a community college. Sports happens to build camaraderie in the community college. That's why people like Southern Virginia University and Benedictine have sports, because it helps build college unity and campus camaraderie. There's also a connection to the community with sports. People come and support. I've noticed that particularly here at Glendale, and the cost of an education is going to be much less at a community college than at a 4-year institution. Now, whatever the role is of sports in a college or university, double that for football. Football is a part of our way of life, but I've got so many questions. It's listed as an expensive sport. Is it an expensive sport? Are the accidents that occur and the cost of those accidents, is that factual? Are the costs real? What's the human capital value of a young man playing football? Someone that plays football and learns lessons in life and then comes back to become a police officer, ETM, firefighter, and the works. We have a lot to gain by considering football, but we've got to ask the questions to get the right answer.
Mr. Arnett, your time is up.
I told you I had more to say.
I know, that's why I said your time is up. Ms. Wynn.
I love football. I'm a Cardinal season ticket holder, and I love all sports. I was a sports announcer when I first got out of college. That was my job. Unfortunately, the decision that got made was made by 4 college presidents and your chancellor. And the board didn't make that decision. So I think it's, if you're strategizing, like what would you do? And who you need to change the minds is you need to change the 4 college presidents and the chancellor. If it's a football game and you want to do a Hail Mary pass, throw it down to whoever's in the end zone. and get around that, you're going to have to change them if they're the blocking right now, because the board does not make that decision. And I think sports are an amazing way to help develop someone's confidence, to develop their growth, to challenge. My son also attended Phoenix College. He was a cross-country runner. He was running cross-country, cleared 5 lanes of traffic and was hit by a car going 52 miles an hour and thrown 80 feet and landed on his head. He was supposed to die that day when I got to the hospital. He had 8 hours of surgery. He got his certificate from here as a paralegal. He then went on to ASU and graduated with honors from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. Now, he was in a coma. He had to learn to walk and talk again. I could have sued the college. I didn't sue the college. The expenses are real. The colleges pays out millions of dollars in lawsuits. The NFL is getting ready to pay out a lot of money. Pima Community College and Yuma have canceled. I'm not against football, but we have to make sure that our players are safe, our students are safe, and we can afford football at Maricopa Community Colleges. We have to start with our presidents and our chancellor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Norini.
Thank you. I spent all my career working with the recruitment and retention of students. I understand, I've studied, most of my doctoral program was on retention theories in higher education. Tinto, Bean, Metzner, they all have one thing in common when they're talking about retention of students. Students who are involved are students who stay. So football, athletics, clubs, organizations, choir, band, those are all things, because we know that in a college education, so much of the college education happens outside the classroom. The leadership that you learn in a club or on a football field, the teamwork that you learn, your time management, those kind of things are happening because of what you're doing outside the classroom. So we need to bring more of these activities, including football, to the college so that we can increase our retention. We know that's an issue. Education, especially community college education, is today's civil rights issue, especially with the community college. As you look at who's registered, who's enrolled in the community college, primarily it's low income, first generation, and students of color. We educate those students, and we're going to get them out of that low income status. We're going to get them out of that first generation status, and they're going to build the economy. And so access is not the issue. It's the retention that's the issue. And football retains students. They retain primarily students of color, first generation, low income students, and do so many of the other programs. So as a retention issue, football is key, and athletics is key.
Thank you very much. Mr. Arterberry.
You know, looking at this question in 2 phases, you're asking about athletics, and the second part is about football in Maricopa Community College. As Mr. Norini was saying, athletics as a co-curricular activity within an educational institution provides many valuable assets to that institution. There's a commitment that this brings about. Students who enroll in athletic programs must be full-time students. Students can continue their education with scholarships because of athletics. Athletics bring about community support to an institution. So offering athletics at a community college has great value to that institution. It brings a connection to the institution. Not only are the student athletes there, but the friends, the neighbors, the aunts, the uncles, what I used to like to call when I coached, the tag-alongs that come to the college because of athletics. Athletics plays a very significant role in the overall educational delivery of the education's mission. Football, as indicated earlier, it was an administrative decision. If I'm fortunate to be elected to the board, I will ask 4 other board members, 3 other board members, to request that the chancellor bring back to the board a complete report of the decision that was made to eliminate football, to see if there are other alternatives, maybe possibly returning football. So it's going to be important that it's a transparent decision and that the board is part of that decision. I think football has an asset that could be lost to this institution if it's not maintained.
Thank you very much. Ms. Sullivan.
There's not a lot I could add in terms of what do athletics bring to the community college system. I agree with what has been stated by all of my previous colleagues. So let's move to football. Certainly with football, it's a regret, I believe, that we do not have it as a continuing program beyond this school year for so many reasons. One is certainly the people that have been invested in this program for years, and we're still relying on it to see them through a completion of their community college experience have had that removed from their future. And it leaves them, I think, hanging. The second piece is our decision to eliminate football trickled into Pima Community College system and others. They're denying or moving away from football for the same reason that they said they had no one locally to play with. And for that reason, then there were high costs to them on their campuses. So, but for me, this is a bigger issue than just football. And that is, was this a data-driven decision where all the folks that needed to have a voice at the table as part of that decision were present? My observation and my learning has told me no. That goes back then to a theme that I have seen consistently in a lot of the decision making at this community college in this system, and that is, number one, we lack data. Number two, we lack the right voices at the right table for the right decision. We need to be more transparent in our decision making. We need to encourage our administrators to lead that effort. We at the board level set that culture at the top to insist that we make data-driven, transparent decisions constantly and consistently. And football is an indicator that that is not happening. Oh, she didn't raise the stop. So I would like to see that.
That doesn't mean you have to keep going.
I would like to see that go forward. That's my goal.
Mr. Elliott.
Thank you.
I fondly remember going to these college games almost every weekend. Football is a big part of my life. I'd love to see it come back. I agree with everything that's been said. There's been a lot of wisdom expressed here. I'd like to frame it quickly in a larger context of co-curricular in general. It doesn't have to be a conversation about football. As you all know, that's what brings a learner to life. I mean, I have to confess, for me, it was jazz band. I played all through middle school, all through high school, all through pep band at university. Those are the formative years of my life. I looked forward to getting up at 7 a.m. for jazz band. I did not look forward to 8 a.m. chemistry. No offense to the chemistry faculty member, please, that's in here. But it's the co-curriculars, whether it is student government, badminton, choir, music, drama, cheer, the variety of sports that we have in our life and the human condition. All of those have to be funded and supported because you come to the college to discover the essence of who you are. And that's what keeps you in school. And frankly, that also saves a lot of money on retention rates. It's all good for everybody. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Let's give them a hand. They are doing a great job staying within their time frame. So thank you very much. So how do we do the grab bag?
So the way we had planned to do it is there's going to be a personal question for the candidates, and then there's also a general question that members, here audience members, had for any of the candidates. So we're going to ask a direct question that was pointed to a candidate and a general question that was pointed to all the candidates for each one of them. So each one will answer 2 questions. All
righty. Perfect. And moderator's prerogative. I use that word. Yeah, I went to college. Because we've done so well on time, we're going to go back to the 2 minutes. So everyone will have a maximum of 2 minutes to answer their questions. So, and the first question, I'm going to start with Ms. Wynn. What experience have you had as a student or an employee of a community college? What experience have you had as a student or an employee of a community college? If you haven't been an employee or a student of a community college, I'm going to, again, moderator prerogative, I'm going to say, talk about experiences that you've had with the community college, either through your family or other students that you've known.
I've taken classes at the community college. I have spoke on many panels. I do anti-sex trafficking work, so I work with law enforcement and advocates to end sex trafficking. I've helped change laws, and I've spoke on campuses, Mesa, Phoenix. Actually, I taught a class here with someone who is a professor here at Glendale. So I have had a lot of interaction with the community college system. As I said, our children, we were consumers of the community college system, and it made a big difference. It made college, when we had 6 kids in college at the same time, it made college affordable. My experience with the community college system has always been very positive. I find that the faculty is engaged in whatever they're teaching. They bring in outside people. They want their students to be current on what's happening. And you know, I was a graduate of the University of Arizona. My job was to go out and interview people. That was what I trained to do. So getting people engaged and getting people involved is something that I'm committed to, and I think that the community college does a really good job of that. I just think we need to build on what they're currently doing and work with employers so that we can create job-ready students. My children did well. They got college scholarships as a result of having their certain basic requirements out of the way. I think that also we can do that now. You can take basic English here, or you can take it at ASU. It costs you 4 times as much to take it at ASU. When you get your degree, when it's all done, you were better off to have maybe, at least affordability-wise, taken more classes at your community college. So I just think we need to have a better plan for our students.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Norini, your question. 4 of the colleges, Phoenix, Glendale, Mesa, and Scottsdale, have football programs. One of the reasons cited for discontinuing those programs is the cost to renovate and maintain their stadiums. Would you be in favor of Glendale playing its home games at Phoenix and Mesa and Scottsdale sharing a stadium?
I'd be all for looking at the data, the accurate data on the cost of the reconstruction and the renovation of the stadiums. I think we need to do what it takes to keep football. If the renovations are outrageous, if the price is too high, yes, I would be for doing whatever it takes to keep it. But I think, first of all, we need to make sure that the data and the information that we have is accurate. We're comparing apples to apples and making sure that we have the proper information.
Thank you very much. Mr. Arterberry, what role does the Maricopa colleges have to play in workforce training?
Community colleges nationally is the workforce institution throughout our country. Maricopa is probably the largest workforce training education institution in the state of Arizona, as well as here in Maricopa. I'm not fully aware of all the workforce programs that are conducted by the Maricopa Community Colleges, but community colleges play that significant role. They work with the business communities, they identify programs, they are able to adjust very quickly to new emerging technologies, new emerging businesses. So community colleges are the economic engines for local communities throughout the nation.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Sullivan, how do you feel about extracurricular activities, student engagement, especially how it relates to student travel?
First of all, I wish I had had the previous question, because for over 20 years I was the workforce development specialist and expert, so we'll just leave that at that. You can ask me those questions later and comments. So in terms of extracurricular student activity, I would be supportive of it. I am supportive of it. I think it enhances and rounds out the traditional education opportunities that one gets in a classroom. When it comes to student travel, I think it has to be identified as appropriate to the curriculum and what is trying to be assessed and attained as a result of that opportunity. Certainly, it is not, I would need to give respect to the teacher and faculty members to be designing their coursework that will have the best benefit for the student. Therefore, if the class and the curriculum as designed by the faculty member is going to be enhanced by student travel and will engage students beyond just the traditional book learning, then that is their decision, I think, as the faculty member. To the degree that there is a financial and liability issue to the travel, certainly those would be established as overarching board policies, and I would expect faculty members would be in compliance with board policies. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Mr. Elliott, holy moly, somebody wrote a dissertation here. Okay, your question. Foreign students on J1 visas and F1 visas are the most vulnerable when it comes to being victims of sexual assault. They don't know the laws. Many come from undocumented, oh, wait a minute, undemocratic. No, it says democratic, undemocratic places. And as a result are afraid to go to the police. Fears of stigma back home when coming from religiously conservative cultures, and there is a language and cultural barrier also that can cause victims to be misunderstood. When will the Maricopa Community Colleges stop, like other institutions in wake of the Me Too movement, do the right thing and protect foreign women from sexual predators on campus?
Wow. Okay. I do believe that obviously people who are from foreign countries, especially from autocratic nation states, and who have been oppressed, especially women, would clearly struggle with defending themselves against sexual predators. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. I don't have the data to answer that question appropriately, so I'm not going to make an uninformed data decision. But in general, what we do as educational leaders is we change people's lives. So if they are coming and they are preyed upon, it is the role of the community college to do everything it can to educate every member of the community with training, required training perhaps, such as sexual harassment training, bullying in the classroom, external factors as well. We also have to work with the experts in the state, whether it's the Attorney General's office, local law enforcement, and the public safety departments of every community college to bring everybody together, ongoing training to protect people who are in a vulnerable population.
Thank you. Mr. Arnett, what was the last book you read? I'm joking. That was actually a question that was asked me when I was in a forum when I was running for mayor. And it wasn't asked me. I was asked why water rates keep getting raised and what are you doing about it? And then the guy next to me got the question of what was the last book you read. Do you think that was a setup? Yeah, me too. So, Mr. Arnett, I'm going to give you something a little less involved in that. How do you feel about extracurricular activities, student engagement, especially how it relates to student travel? I think we've heard this question.
We just had that question.
We did.
Want me to answer it again?
If you have, yeah, might as well. That's the question to you.
I think it can be very educational if it's done correctly, as Ree has stated. I'm familiar with Larry Christensen, who used to be the president of the Basic Community College, and he did a lot of foreign travel, and it was a very successful program. I happen to have a brother-in-law that was a professor at a major university, and every summer he would take business students to foreign countries, and they would tour plants and businesses and enterprises, banks, insurance companies, et cetera, and they would come back with a wealth of knowledge. So done correctly, it could be done very, very well in my judgment. Let me go back to the previous question about foreign students. I happen to think that one of the best things that we could do to help our finances is encourage foreign students here. And like Mr. Elliott said, let's train these people how to work in our system so that they're not afraid to report whatever it is, and teach them to take care of themselves so that they are protected. But ASU makes a very good living at bringing foreign students here. They have like 3,000 Chinese, another 3,000 Indians, and they pay their countries pay for their travel, their housing, and all of the things that take place, and frankly, they do it making a profit. So we have to consider, how do we do that? How do we make these people feel at home? And there are a lot of folks that live here from India, from Germany, from foreign countries, and we can make them feel welcome here, and it would help our financing.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now each one of you will get a different question. I'm going to start with Mr. Elliott. 4 of the colleges, Phoenix, Glendale, Mesa, Scottsdale, have football programs. I think we've heard this one before. One of the reasons cited was discontinuing the program. For discontinuing the program is the cost to renovate and maintain their stadiums. Would you be in favor of Glendale having its home games at Phoenix and Mesa and Scottsdale sharing a stadium?
I would never question the moderator, but I just want to make sure I'm answering the same question that's already been asked.
It was the same question
okay.
that was raised previously, yes.
Thank you. For me, I agree with what my colleagues have said. I really believe in shared resources. That's the bottom line. So I don't know why we can't use and share other people's stadiums. That saves resources, which allows us to lower tuition and deliver high-quality, affordable education. The other thing is to make a data-informed decision, is to look at what are the other uses of the stadium. So we're only talking about football in isolation for some reason, right? So these stadiums are wonderful pieces of property. They're assets in the community. How else might they be used? Is it worth it to put money into there so that you can charge for events, right? There's lots of organizations that need quality space to hold large events, and they pay for that. I come from an institution that does that all the time. So I would say yes, and shared resources, or the option is let's look at each individual asset at the community college and find out how else might it be used.
Thank you very much. So Mr. Arnett, I'm going to give you the next question. Tell us your experience with the veteran community and the role of the community colleges. What policies will you advocate to support those who have served?
This is a very timely subject, and I think an area that we need to spend a great deal of work developing and making sure we get it right. In another life, I'm involved in a program where we teach people personal finance, how to get a job, education for a better job, and how to start and grow your own business. I believe that those are the kinds of things that we can help our veterans with, and veterans have a lot of expense money, a lot of scholarship money available to them for retraining and re-careering, and we owe it to our veterans to help them get a good education, and that's where I think that this apprenticeship program would come in phenomenally well. There are many, many companies throughout our economy that would like to hire veterans, and we ought to collaborate with those to make sure that we have done it correctly and help our veterans move forward successfully.
Thank you very much. So, Ms. Nguyen, the question starts out with a qualification on who is writing the question. As a retired academic advisor at GCC, your question: how are you going to approach the ongoing problem of high school students being unprepared for college? Example, more development courses, career courses, or working with high schools. And we question why our educational system is 25th. The status quo cannot continue.
I agree with you. Currently, we have, in our high schools, we have one counselor for 600 and some students. The counselor never gets to the students, let alone the students aren't ready to come, they're not ready to come to college, and we know that that's an issue. In Arizona also, when you're 16, you can just sign yourself out. You don't have to go to school anymore. So again, it goes back to the 75,000 disengaged youth in Maricopa County. Our K through 12 it's a train wreck. And if we're going to be successful, we have to work with our K through 12. It just makes sense. And we have to do a better job of figuring out where the deficits are. Is it math and science? Is it English? Where are we not where we need to be to get those kids ready to go to college? And we do that by working with our high schools. We do that by working with our middle schools. But our testing should give us some of that indication. And we need to be able to focus on, again, our students. Our students are disinterested. And we are still teaching the same way we did 40 years ago, but our students aren't learning the same way that they did 40 years ago. So we have to do a better job of figuring out how our students are learning and then matching them up to where they can actually apply whatever skill set that they are. But reading, math, science, technology, all of those things are critical. We have to make a critical analysis of where we're at, and our students right now are failing, and we have a responsibility to change that. And that's where I would start.
Thank you. Mr. Noreen, what workforce trends do you see in Maricopa, and how do you see Maricopa Community Colleges preparing the future workforce for this?
Thanks. Yeah, the workforce trends are out there. I think what's even more important than teaching specific skills is teaching students how to learn, to be critical readers, critical writers, critical consumers of information, so that when the new job comes, like was pointed out before, the jobs that are going to be available in 10 or 15 years from now aren't jobs that are available now. So it's impossible for us to train for those jobs, but we can train critical readers, critical writers, critical thinkers. And that's what we need to focus on, so that when those jobs come available, they'll know how to look at a problem, they'll solve the problem, and move on from there, and they'll get the hands-on training that they need to do the workforce, or the job that the workforce is opening up to. So again, going back to the basic liberal arts education, critical reading, critical writing, critical thinking.
Thank you very much. So, Ms. Sullivan, your question is, I'm sorry, Mr. Arterberry. No. I found my mistake. I can't count.
So, is it Ms. Sullivan?
No, it's you.
Oh, it's me.
Yeah, you're on the hook. At Grand Canyon, and it's a good one too, let me tell you. At Grand Canyon University, you can ride your bike, your scooter, your skateboard, rollerblades on campus. You can even ride modified skateboards. However, at the Maricopa Community Colleges, the campus police, including here at Glendale Community College, will harass you and tell you, as a paying student, they will tell you, you're not allowed. We're all adults. We shouldn't be banned from riding whatever on campus grounds out of fear that we might knock into someone. When you're going to remove these, when are you going to remove these childish rules and treat us as adults like they do at universities?
You said that question before, was Ms. Sullivan?
That's you. That's you, my friend.
You know, it reminds me, many years back, I was walking on campus. This person had a dog, and the dog attacked me. And we had a campus rule that if you had a dog on campus, the dog was supposed to be on a leash. The dog bit me, and the dog was not on the leash. Unfortunately, you do have safety rules that must be adhered to and maintained. I don't know about Grand Canyon and the mobility and the freedom of being able to ride those kinds of things, but I would really hate for a person to be on a motor scooter coming around a corner and a student in a wheelchair is coming down the path and that student on the motor scooter hits the student in the wheelchair. I think it's important that you have safety rules, and those safety rules must be maintained and must be adhered to. As a college president, I don't recall ever having a college that allowed students to ride bicycles on campus, to ride those type of motorcycles or motor scooters on the campus. I think it's extremely important that the safety of the population on that campus must be the priority, and the ability of students to transfer around. Now, if the college has built areas where those vehicles or those type of motorized vehicles can go, then the answer would be yes. But that would not be a pedestrian place for walk. So I think all of that has to be taken into consideration. I've never been on the Grand Canyon campus to look at the physical of that campus and how it's built. But I think what's important is the safety of the people on campus, and that has to be paramount.
Thank you. Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
How should the district handle the organization of federally recognized hate groups, Southern Poverty Law Center tract, on Maricopa Community College campuses?
Wow, I'll take student safety with skateboards. I think the research done by the Southern Poverty Law Center is very substantive research, and what they're discovering, of course, is that there are more hate groups appearing in many places, and certainly the community colleges and university systems are not precluded from being locations where many of these groups identified by the Law Center acknowledges as disruptive and just plain hateful. How that should be addressed at each campus, though, can become in conflict with academic freedom and freedom of speech. And I think that that is a really tough conversation that needs to be had amongst a variety of individuals invested in the community college system and at the particular locations where people want to appear. Certainly, folks need to have permits in order to be present on campus. People have to have perhaps been invited. So for me, it's a balancing act. Should there be a policy that describes what a hate group is, or should there be an overarching policy that says anyone identified by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group should not be invited? You know, I don't know really the answer to that question in its totality. I personally find hate groups abhorrent and destructive, and I am regretful that it reflects a lack of civility that seems to be permeating a lot of our communities. With that, however, I would, again, want to ensure that every stakeholder possible could be invested in the decision whether a group would be invited or denied access to the community college campus.
Thank you. Okay, that covers our grab bag questions, correct? Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. So we now have a final question, and it would include any closing comments that you have within your 2 minutes. That question will start with Mr. Elliott, and the question is, in canvassing neighborhoods for your candidacy, what have voters expressed to you as the primary concerns and focus for the Maricopa Community College District Governing Board?
Thank you. I've had a lot of fun, to be honest, the last 6, 7, 8 months as I go out in my neighborhood and other neighborhoods. And just so you know, when I tell them that I'm a candidate for the Maricopa County Community College Governing Board, my typical response is, what's that? And so we spend some time just educating one another on actually what the board is and what it does. But when you dig deeper, the three things that always have been coming up anyway, is what the reason why I started in this race, is faculty staff morale. It was just ubiquitous. Everywhere I went, on every level, faculty members, staff members were very stressed out, felt very disrespected. My heart bled for them. That was a constant theme throughout. The second thing was the total cost of education. Because whether they were educating themselves, their children, or in many cases I met grandchildren, they were struggling with not just the tuition rate, but everything else we've talked about, all the factors that go into what it means to be a part-time or full-time learner in the college system. And finally, property taxes. Property taxes came up quite a bit, and I kept pointing out that actually the board did a pretty darn good job the last few years of keeping the assessment rate down, but everyone's home value has gone up. So there are real issues with the county assessor. It's not necessarily with the community college board. As you know, when your property taxes go up, it's most likely due to the fact that your home value has gone up and therefore you're paying more. Thank you very much for this forum. Really was exciting for me. I used to be the director of the Center for Civic Education at ASU, and I trained folks to hold these forums, and I haven't seen many of late. So to Ashley and to former Councilman Maddox and everybody else, truly was an honor. It was so exciting and stimulating to see faculty and staff and learners engaging in conversation with my potential colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnett.
As I have gone around the community, I have been asked about a laundry list, so I'll just kind of read it, but I'll make some comments. Number one generally is football. We need to understand that the 4 college presidents that helped make that decision are no longer with the district. They're gone. We have new district presidents, and they are bright people, the people that I sat on the selection committee for Mesa, and I think that they are good people, and we need to go with them. The meet and confer is a issue that people talk about, and it's brought up almost every time I talk to somebody. We need to figure out a way to have collaborative problem solving. Faculty and staff needs to have a voice at the table, but there needs to be a modernization of meet and confer, a contemporary way of collaborative problem solving. Near free, or near as possible, free tuition and cost of going to college, as was mentioned. And we are getting our lunch, even though ASU is more expensive and Grand Canyon is more expensive, University of Phoenix, they are out hustling us, and so we need to do whatever we can to make our value so that it is perceived and understood. The apprenticeships, you heard me mention apprenticeships that needs to be engaged with the industry, and I hope that we reach out to industry and we have a plethora of apprenticeship programs in the very near future. Every time I talk to somebody, we talk about payroll, technology, for payroll, student enrollment, teaching technology. Technology is woefully behind in Maricopa, and we need to fix that. Maintenance and operation of the physical plant. You're stopping me at my very most important point.
Sorry, sir. Ms. Wynn.
I've been out campaigning since January, and I've knocked on hundreds of doors. And people are, they're concerned about our next generation. They're concerned about what's happening, how do we connect with them, and how do we do a better job with education. I think that came to a forefront this year. And we took care of our students, we took care of our teachers, and the professors and the faculty at our community college system, we have some of the best in the country. What we haven't done is promote our community college system. And so a lot of what I had to do was educate people, let them know that we had the biggest, let them know what the budget was, let them know how it was paid for. And my husband retired from Boeing. He is an aerospace engineer. He designed the Apache attack helicopter. And they used to use the community college system to hire people. They would go to the community college system, they would come and they would get an $80,000 a year job, and Boeing would pay for it. We can do that again. We need to do that again. And not just with Boeing, but with many industries that are moving here. With those 1 million people, we have companies moving here. We have so many different avenues. And we have this wonderful asset called the community college system, and we're not utilizing it to its highest and best use. So in talking to people, everyone has fatigue. We have to stop politicizing education. Our students deserve better from us, and we need to listen to each other. We need to listen to the faculty who are with the students every day. We need to listen to our students and say, what do you want to do? They've got the best time right now in history to be a student. and we've got to do a better job of being leaders instead of arguers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Naridi.
Thank you. My district is District 5. It runs from pretty much Thomas south. So it's the area where I grew up. I went to Carl Hayden High School, went to Phoenix College and Mesa Community College to graduate. So a lot of the questions that we got out there, besides like, hey, how you been? Because I'm knocking a lot of doors at the people that I used to grow up with. So besides, hey, how you been? It was football and DACA seemed to be the two big topics that came up. What are we going to do about football, and what are we going to do about the DACA students? And again, DACA is one of those areas that I spent a lot of time in. Back in 2003, when I was in Washington State, we passed a DREAM Act that allowed undocumented students to come for in-state tuition if they had lived in the state for 3 years and graduated from high school. We can do that here. With football, again, my experience has been with retention. Football, athletics, sports, or clubs, organizations, we need to do more. One of the most important words in the name of the district is community. We are a community. We need to engage the community. Because we need to bring them. We need to do a better job of selling who we are. We need to get more people to campus. I know the impact of having advisors. We need to make sure that we have the resources to serve our students. We need to go back to the state and get the money back that was taken, because without the resources, I'm a school counselor. Arizona has the highest student to counselor ratio. And that translates into the community college. What the high school counselors aren't able to do, we need to make sure it happens at the community college, through academic advising, through regular counseling, through financial aid. We need to make sure that happens. So again, I'm running for the board. I'm on the board because I am the community college. I graduated. I know the students from being a student to the ones who are getting the students here to attend, and I know the potential and the quality that the college is offering.
Thank you. Mr. Arterberry.
You know, listening to these folks, it appears they have very engaging conversations with the homes that they visited. Maybe one or two would ask about DACA. Some would make comments about the word they heard about the payroll. Some may make comments about the relationship of faculty and staff. But the two overriding issues that I got, one, what is your political affiliation? Two, football. Those were the two overriding issues that I would get. Political affiliation, I go to it's a nonpartisan. No, what is your political affiliation? And then I have to be honest and I tell them my political affiliation. And then we talk about football and the importance of athletics within the community colleges. But those were the two driving comments that I would get when I would go to residence. What is your political affiliation and football? I served 20 years as a community college CEO. And in that 20 years, I reported to a governing board for 19. I fully understand the role and relationship between the CEO and the board of governors for that community college. And I believe I have the skill set, the knowledge. I think one of the things that's missing from this board are educators, and especially educators with community college experience. I look forward to serving you in this role. Thank you very much.
Ms. Sullivan.
When one has quite a diverse district, one has an opportunity to meet a lot of individuals, see a lot of differences in neighborhoods, and learn a lot from people depending on where they live. But there are some consistencies that occurred. The first, when I would knock on a door and someone would choose to open the door, because many don't, they were curious and would either take a flyer or say, "What is this again?" That would be the two things. But when we stressed that it was a community college governing board, most folks would then say, "Oh, isn't there something going on about football?" So I have to congratulate Coach Kirsting and all of the folks that you're involved with for spreading the word that football is no longer going to be present in coming up here. So that was one. The other thing that would come up was more of a generic point of view, and that is there are so many people that have some sort of relationship with the community college in our environment. Whether they've had a student attend, whether they have taught, whether they have a grandchild currently in the system, it doesn't matter. They're just so invested in what that individual whose relationship they have with the community college district, that there was some curiosity. So my time is running out, but I would say overarching, my role was to listen, not talk. And there's a general lament from most of the people I talked to about the status of education in this community and where that was going to lead people to enhance their quality of life. So for me, with my 20 years as a CEO of a workforce development group, with my service on a school district governing board, as a small business owner, as a person who's gone to community college, whose children access community college, you know, I think that I have the blend that allowed me to listen well to all the folks that I had an opportunity to meet and talk with. So thank you very much for this opportunity today. Appreciate it.
Let's give them a round of applause. So again, moderator's prerogative. I am going to ask the question, what was the last book you read? I'm going to start with Ms. Wynn.
Oh my gosh, I'm reading like 3 grade.
I know, that's why I asked.
I'm reading a leadership book right now about leadership qualities.
Very good. Mr. Reed.
Mrs. Good Girl by Gillian Summers.
Okay. Mr. Hardberry.
I'm writing a book entitled My Journey.
I didn't ask what you were writing, I asked what you read.
Good try.
I don't recall.
Okay.
I just closed the last chapter on A Gentleman in Moscow.
Very good. Mr. Elliott.
Hillbilly Elegy, highly recommended. Very interesting if you want to know about the unforgotten rural population of America and how they vote.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Mr. Arnett.
I read the book Influencers, and the process that they went through, just 1 or 2 people can influence an entire nation.
Absolutely. Great. Well, that is the end of our forum. I want to say thank you to everyone who attended. I know folks had to leave. But one of the things that I do want to drive home, first of all, I learned a lot here. You've got some great candidates. So I think that you should give them applause for being willing to do this and putting themselves out there running for election. Congratulations to board member-elect Narini. You got to make it through Tuesday, though. You know, you're not there yet. You can see the finish line. So one of the things that I do want to drive home is that voting is a privilege. Do not waste it. Take advantage of it. The decisions that are made about your life, my life, are predicated on what we tell people that we want them to do for us. So this is a big election coming up. Obviously a big election for your board, a big election locally and federally. So if you have not voted, please do. If you are not registered to vote, while you can't vote in this election, please register because you can vote in the next one. It's a very important privilege to take advantage of. Again, my name is Claude Maddox. I am a product of what was then the junior college system in Florida. It's now the community college system in Florida. So all of us who have been through that system, you know, we can tout our successes. And it started right there with the teachers and with the folks who we worked with back when we were your age. It was a couple of years ago, but we were all there at one time. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks again to our panel, and good luck